Hi everyone, is this thing on? I'm trying out my little head mount here for my GoPro. So I came down here to my wormery to grab a glove. So I'm gonna head outside to check my outdoor worm bin. But since I've got a mirror here in my wormery, I figured I would try out the head mount to see if it's working properly. I could see my reflection right there. It's kind of cool how this GoPro has this little preview screen up here. But I am cheating because I also have a preview screen right here on my my phone. It blacks out when it's actually filming, but up until I've got the image framed, I can see what I'm doing. That's how I do a lot of my filming when I'm working in my wormery. So I'm gonna head on outside and see how my outdoor worm bin's doing. Why don't you join me? Oh boy, it is chilly out here. Right before I was about to start filming, I got a phone call, and I've been on the phone for the past 10-15 minutes. And my hands are so cold, so I think I'm going to keep this short. Like I said, we're not out here to feed, or I'm not even sure if I mentioned it, but I'm not out here to feed. It was 10 days ago that we checked in here last, and at that time we noticed that there was quite a bit of food in here, and we I think we had actually decided that this bin would receive no food, at least maybe for a month. So it's hard to say how long it'll be before I feed this bin next, but today I was just curious to see how things are looking in here. It's a really tiny baby worm right there. I usually don't think to look for anything that size. We've got a couple more worms hanging out here on the plastic. Just goes to show how much they really enjoy that collecting moisture that ends up on the plastic. And in this case, it was all the rain that fell yesterday. It rained and rained all day yesterday, and that's why the top of the plastic is damp. And I would think that the rest of the material in here has got to be nice and damp too. At least around the edges. But I would think that that moisture probably makes its way into the rest of the bin. So I think the last time we were in here, we didn't really make much of an effort to try to centralize the food. I'm pretty sure there's food all over the place. One thing I wish I had done was centralize the food into the middle area. But I'm sure there's no problem with the food being scattered all about. That's all good too. I'm not even sure what this is. It's the, I guess it's the stem of some sort of a vegetable. And it is really hard. Stuff like that's probably going to take a good long time before it breaks down. But I do remember coming in here with a good number of leaves last time when I fed 10 days ago. So I gave them the leaves of some sort of a vegetable. This looks like more of the same, what we saw before. It's a little bit thinner, so it actually snaps in half. I think this was the piece we saw a moment ago. But, you know, everywhere you look, there's good numbers of worms hanging out almost everywhere. Which is a relief to see, finally, after all the troubles we've had in this bin with the bin getting invaded and having so many of the worms eradicated by the little invader. And I'm actually kind of glad that we're looking in here now, because while you know, there are still obviously scraps of stuff in here, they're things that I thought would soften up and become edible by the worms sooner. But if they're going to remain this tough and this slow to break down, I don't think that the worms are going to be able to make much use of it as food anytime soon. Makes me wonder if I might need to actually put it back onto a feeding schedule. Oh, maybe not. Here it is. I was thinking that a lot of this stuff that we're finding down here was gone already, but clearly it's still down here and intact. I guess it was just a little bit deeper than I had remembered. But it's kind of cool to see worms all over the place. Everywhere we look, there's worms zipping around over here. And hopefully the stuff is starting to break down so that the worms can begin taking advantage of it. But it does seem realistic to think that waiting a while before giving this bin another feeding is a good idea. So it doesn't seem like they're going to need anything anytime soon. It's kind of interesting to see too how dry and crumbly a lot of these leaves that I placed in here still are. I figured with rain coming down all day yesterday that this bin would be more or less drenched. But I guess with the plastic coverings, only the outer rim probably receives a good bit of moisture, and then the middle section remains protected. Although out here too, it's not quite as damp as I kind of expected it to be. I think this is the seed of an avocado. Pretty interesting, because usually they're as hard as a marble. So I think actually things are looking pretty nice in this bin. There's all kinds of stuff for these little guys to eat. There's bedding material, there's food items, there's lots and lots of it. But you can also see there's a good number of worms too, so it probably makes sense for me to occasionally check in to see how they're coming along. And since temperatures are really dropping now, the location of the bin has got to change too. I've just got it out here in the middle of my yard, and I'm going to position it right alongside the house. I'll probably carry it over there now once we finish filming here and checking in, just so that it has a little bit of a shelter, and maybe receives a little bit of the warmth emanating from the structure. It's kind of what I'm hoping for. Last year I kept this bin when it was also last year it was occupied by worms, and I kept it right alongside the house, and it seemed to do well by being right up against the house. And I'm assuming that keeping them over there again this year will be enough to protect them, hopefully. I would hate to come in here one day and find that this whole thing had frozen solid. Hey, look at that. It's the cork. I wasn't really expecting to run into the cork today. That's one of our little test items that are floating around in here for us to occasionally bump into, so I usually like to leave that somewhere near the middle so that at future check-ins we run into it and see how it's progressing. But yeah, I think things look pretty good in here. I can't complain. So I'm gonna stick to the concept of continuing to let this bin sort of forage. I think it's been in service for over 100 days now, maybe about 105 days or so, and you know, repeated additions of worms along with the food materials that they were occupying, as well as explicit feedings of the bin, I think have resulted in a surplus of food in here. So I think from a food perspective, the container is in good shape, and I'm not going to add any more anytime soon, but I probably will check in occasionally just to make sure they're doing okay as the temperatures continue to drop. So that's the update for today on the outdoor worm bin. No feeding, no nothing. Perhaps just a relocation to a slightly more sheltered space to help it avoid getting overly chilly out here in the yard. So hopefully you enjoyed my quick check-in with my outdoor worm bin. If you enjoyed the video, please remember to give me a quick thumbs up. That's always really appreciated. And also consider subscribing to the channel too if you haven't done so already. All right, everyone. Have a great day. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.